Yeah, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Sacramento First Five Commission for Monday, May 1st, 2017. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Dave Gordon.
Here.
Beth Hassett.
Sorry.
Terrence Jones.
Here.
Olivia Kassiri. Paul Lake.
Here.
Scott Moak.
Here.
Donna Snaringer. Steve Wertz.
Here.
Lee Turner Johnson.
Here.
Kathy Kossick. Terry Porter. Christina Elliott.
Here.
Patrick Kennedy.
Here.
Phil Cerna.
Here.
We have a quorum. And with Beth Hassett being out today, Steve Wertz will be voting in her place, and Olivia Kassiri is also out, and Kathy Kossick isn't here, so we won't have any vote for that.
Okay.
But we still have a
But
quorum.
we do have a quorum.
This meeting of the First Five Sacramento Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the Local Government Affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T U-verse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, May 5th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board may sign a request slip at the kiosk located in the back of the room. When completed, please give to the staff member seated behind me. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. If you have any electronic devices, please put them on silent or turn off now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, will you do us the honor of leading us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, again, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's commission meeting. We have a number of folks here in chambers. That's good to see. Again, as a friendly reminder, we do invite you to speak on any item that's on our agenda. You are also given the opportunity to speak on any item that's not on our agenda. We do ask that you complete a speaker slip and give it to our clerk, and you will be called in the order that I receive. We do ask that you respect a 3-minute limit on your testimony, and that's in place so that everyone can address this commission if they so choose. So with that, our first item, please.
Item 1, approve April 3rd, 2017 draft action summary.
Okay. Does any member of the commission wish to make any changes to the draft action summary? If not, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Lake. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next, please.
Item 2, public comment on non-agenda items.
Okay. As I just mentioned, this is the public's opportunity to address this commission on items not on the agenda. I do have two people signed up to speak on items not on the agenda. First is Laura Russell, and then Marisol Anaya. So, Laura?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Laura Russell, and I'm here to speak on behalf of, or in support of the program for the preschool bridge vision and hearing screening. My 4-year-old daughter, not this one's only 2, she received a vision and hearing screening at her preschool that was provided by Bao, who invited me to come today. And my daughter has always received regular pediatric care, always goes to all her appointments, and I had no clue whatsoever that she had any vision deficiencies, and she was screened, and it was found out that she had some major vision deficiencies, and we took her afterwards to an eye doctor, and within a few weeks she was able to get glasses, and it's been a huge benefit to her life to be able to have glasses now. And I think that it's very important for funding to continue for these programs, so kids, I mean, even parents who regularly take their kids to the doctor can have screening programs for their kids. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Marisol, is it Anoya? Okay.
Hello, my name is Marisol Anaya, and I am a preschool bridging model participant for the 2015-2016 year, and I'm currently in the 2016-2017 participant. My first year I was a recent graduate, and I had just started my first teaching job in the ECE field. I would just like to say that I was labeling myself as someone that was in the survival emerging teacher stage because I lacked confidence, and I was really energetic and really excited to start my opportunity to really work with children. I was fortunate enough that preschool bridging model came to me. I decided to participate, and it really made a difference in the individual and the professional I am today. I wouldn't be here in front of you guys speaking on my experience. I was able to work with the EC specialist on site weekly, where it actually helped me really create a professional growth plan for myself, where I can actually see through a pre and a post assessment where my areas of strengths and weaknesses were. And it really felt like it was something that was beneficial for myself, and it was something that it seemed that it was realistic and something that could really work for myself. And throughout the on-site coachings, we would have the EC specialist come and meet with me, and we would do on-site coaching where she would be either on the floor with me or she would be on the side observing me. These experiences really helped me gain confidence, and not just also that, but really create a foundation for my center in the program. We were able to create a family engagement plan where we were able to survey the families and provide them programs that we didn't offer them in the past, such as the hearing and screening that were previously a parent just spoke on. We actually benefited where we had a few children that are now in working with the EC specialist and working with their school district to provide services for them, such as counseling and working also with the Quality Care Collaborative throughout Child Action. In addition, we also have been able to add to really work with not just myself, but 2 additional teachers where they actually provided them a professional growth plan where they've actually grown. And because, when you enter this field, you feel like you're confident, you do all the schoolwork, you do everything you feel is what you need to get done in order to work as a professional. And then you get there and you sometimes lack support. And I can honestly say that as an individual, I've received that support through the preschool bridging model. I can honestly tell you that if I have questions, concerns, or sometimes just need that, someone to really talk to me and just tell me, you're doing a really great job. You need to just believe in yourself. And I've gotten that through the preschool bridging model, and having Lindsay as my EC specialist has really been a gift to myself. And I would just thank you the opportunity to giving me the time to speak here today. Sorry.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it was just pointed out to me that the other speakers, I guess, also want to speak during public comment, not on the agenda, but I just want to get a sense, are people wanting to speak, and they're all for the same thing, preschool bridging model or program. Is it in the context of what we're going to be considering in terms of budget or strategic plan today? And if so, might we hear from you during those items, or is it truly something that you feel is separate from what's on our printed agenda? Any ideas?
Don't think so.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll just go ahead and take your testimony now, but I just wonder out loud whether or not there was some confusion about where to sign up to speak here. So next up is Janine Cooper.
mic is on. I am also a member of the preschool, participating in the preschool bridging model. And what they have done for us is supported us over the past 2 years in building quality in our program. They have supported our teachers through coaching from our child development specialists with observations and feedback, our coach supports in curriculum development and providing training in language and literacy, teacher-child interactions, emergent curriculum. We have had less teacher turnover in our program, and you've heard from one of the teachers. And I do attribute part of that to the services that the preschool bridging model has provided. My teachers have support in the skills to deal with challenges when they arise. They feel more supported and confident in their field. And as professionals, the preschool bridging model team is also supported with our family engagement. Our goal as a program is to support the whole child, not only focusing on academics for preschool and kindergarten readiness, but also the physical and mental well-being for children. So as part of that, they do the screenings, as you heard. We've had several children at our site also get glasses based on the screenings that they received from our family advocate. Also, they support it with the implementation of the Ages and Stages questionnaire, which is an early identification and developmental screening for children. This has also helped identify children who may have some developmental delays and provide its resources to families with information regarding special needs. The preschool bridging model has also supported us with developing a family resource area and family engagement events. Our specialists provided families with information on how to help their child grow and develop, as well as information on kindergarten readiness. In conclusion, we are grateful for the program, and it's provided our program with teachers and families with so many resources, and we understand, they understand quality, and they meet you where you are. So if you're a program that's here and you're trying to get to a 5 or a 10, they start there with you and they help you build that, which is really great. So please continue the funding for the preschool bridging model. It is vital to children, families, and teachers in the community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Lori Altrich, and then Melissa Brown after Lori.
Okay, hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lori Eldridge, and I am a preschool teacher at Prestige Preschool Academy in Natomas. And I have been a part of this, the preschool bridging program since August of last year. And the reason I'm here is to help encourage this program to continue. The tools that they give us to help with our classroom can't be measured. The help that they give us individually, the reading. I'm a preschool teacher, and I thought part of my job is just to help my 1-year-olds just to speak English. Instead of saying baba, it's bottle. Instead of saying wah-wah, it's water. But through this program, they would like me to do more. Go into the classroom, and instead of saying, you know, this is a large ball, it's huge, it's enormous. Building their vocabulary for these 1-year-olds is very important. And it's very important for the teachers to have the tools available to them so that they can continue building these children's language development. Along with other things, there's more than one thing that this is good for. But my focus for what I am doing is mainly for communication, getting these little kids to learn English. And that's it. All right, thank you.
Okay, Melissa Brown.
Hello, my name is Melissa Brown, and I'm the Center Director at Prestige Preschool. Lori's one of my teachers. And we have benefited so much from this program, the Preschool Bridging Model program. Much like the other women who have spoke, we have seen children receive glasses from this program that parents didn't know or have the resources to be able to get their children the vision services that they needed. Ages and Stages, which has been a great benefit to some of our children as well, finding screenings to be able to help them with early intervention, It's been such a great program to watch my staff be able to participate in. I try to be supportive as I can, but I'm one person, so having somebody come in and work with them and giving them the support and the ideas, fresh ideas, outside ideas, has been so beneficial. And seeing it from an outsider, just meeting with Beth each week has given me somebody to speak to and work things through, and again, new fresh ideas and ways to handle staff and parents, and bringing in just all kinds of extra support to our school. So it's been very beneficial. I'm very thankful for the program, and I do hope to see it continue.
Great, thank you. Those are all the speakers I have for public comment. Appreciate everyone taking time out of your busy schedules to let us know what's on your minds. Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item 3, Executive Director's Report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I will highlight just a couple of things from the Executive Director's Report. You should have at your side our annual community dashboard. This highlights our programs and the number of children and families and providers served. We did a flashy robot-themed dashboard this year to hopefully draw attention to it. A copy's in your packet, but it's also available on our website, and we're distributing it to partners as well. Our strategic plan was presented to the Board of Supervisors on the 25th of April, and Supervisor Natoli, who is chairing the meeting, did ask the county executive to take into consideration what the reductions may mean to county programs and to families and children, and essentially asked the county executive to try to ensure that those families and children don't fall through the cracks. He talked about it having a human and financial cost to the county, he also commented and sort of praised the commission for holding our town hall meeting back in January. He thought that was a really good way to draw attention to our declining revenue and to seek partnerships outside of the commission and outside of the county to help support those programs as our money decreases. Supervisor Cerna spoke to how the commission is focusing on our sustainability efforts and how we will work with less to continue to do everything that we can to benefit our kids and families. You will see the strategic plan back for your approval in June at our next commission meeting. So the board did not have any requests for changes within the document, and so it'll come to you. And remember, it's that very high-level document. I know that some of our providers and folks are coming forward today. You might see some in June again. They're really speaking more toward the implementation plan, which is where we get into the nitty-gritty about funded programs and dollar amounts and allocations, all of that. We also created community impact sheets, one sheet for each of the districts represented by our supervisors. Thought this is a good way to share with them the investment that First Five is making in each district, how many children and families and providers are served. This year we even included how many jobs were created for each district, put that in the report. Of course, with the background of the importance of prevention and early intervention services in the first 5 years. Let's see, as far as advocacy goes, as a follow-up from our town hall meeting, our advocacy in the community does continue. Next month, Mutual Assistance Network is going to host a tour and an open house on May 31st. It's going to showcase how the investments from First Five Sacramento have really been beneficial to help launch a number of programs that are going on and additional services that are available in the community. Commissioners are invited to attend, and you will all be receiving invitations very soon. Also, as you know, we had our First Five second annual Pride and Joy baby shower, and I gave you some statistics on it last month, but we didn't have our final counts in. And so I wanted to share with you that it was attended by 232 people. 113 of those were pregnant women or new moms with babies under the age of 6 months. We had participants from 32 zip codes, so kind of a widespread around the county, and we had over a dozen agencies there providing materials and education. Gave away lots of goodies and supplies, and the end-all, be-all is we had 108 referrals to our different programs for parents, and that is real connections to get further assistance and help, and so that's critical. We do have a quick video from the event to share with you, so I'll ask them to cue that video now.
This is our second annual Pride and Joy Community Baby Shower. Having new parent fairs like this is really intended to make sure that people have a one-stop shop to access everything from information about good oral health for the young children to safe sleeping habits and other information that will let them have a head start in being terrific parents.
So I gave birth to my newest addition in December, so she's 2.5 months. Her name is Naja. It is stressful because I still have two older ones to look after, and then I have her.
Braxton was born February 3rd, 2017. I was a little scared. I do have a 2-year-old, so I'm still fairly new at parenting, and so it felt brand new all over again.
One of the things we're working on in Sacramento County is addressing some of the health disparities that we observe, especially during the first year of life. If you look at the statistics, African American babies die at twice the rate of other children, and that should not be.
By 2020, the intent is to lower disproportional death rates in the African American childhood population of Sacramento County 10 to 20%.
I know that it's a community problem that we have to deal with. It takes a village, it takes a community.
You see babies inside, and every one of them has this God-given potential to do great things in life. Their success depends on whether or not we support them.
Learning the information about how your child should sleep at night to avoid death was the biggest eye-opener for me. Having the resources available makes it a lot easier to know that you have that support behind you in whatever it is that you need additional information on.
I went into the Well Space program. The coordinator there asked me would I be interested in a home visitor, and I said, you know what, why not? She gave me some additional resources, so she taught me about making sure that he's sleeping on his back. It kind of set the tone for how I would raise him. I'm definitely a more confident mom.
For those who are overwhelmed, sometimes understandably, you're not alone.
Yay. Yeah, I know. That's pretty cool. Our partners at RSC put that together from footage they took during the day, and that is up on our websites and social media outlets, and we're just trying to get that out as much as we can.
Julie, is there a opportunity to maybe to tag it at the end with a website or some other
that's a great
information?
idea.
I think that could probably be. Is that okay?
Tag it
That'd
over
be
to
great.
Sac Healthy Baby. Yeah. Thank you. That's a great. We do have lots going on in communications. It's all written out in your ED report, so I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on that. And I know that Commissioner Wirtz is going to ask me about there's some follow-up on immigration law changes and what we're doing. So I did write out a couple of things to share with you. The Commission continues to connect families and providers to resources. Our May 18th quarterly contractors meeting, we have invited Jose Quesada with the ACLU to do a presentation to our providers. We usually get about 40 to 60 providers in the room. And he will focus on immigrants' rights and services available to them in the county. He'll bring resources, and he's actually really looking forward to connecting with those providers to go out to their agencies to do presentations directly to families and other providers. So this is sort of the first place he's going to jump in for us, but I think it will have a ripple effect to other providers as well. And additionally, Supervisor Kennedy is leading a community effort with county and local organizations to develop an emergency placement plan for children if they're separated from their parents due to this issue. CPS is taking the lead for the county on this, but First Five is at the table and participating in those discussions. Thank you for spearheading that, Supervisor Kennedy. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Julie. Commissioner Lake, then Commissioner, who's playing the part of Commissioner Hassett today?
I guess I'm on the wrong one.
Yeah, Julie, you and I have had a conversation in the last couple of weeks, and it's really, I appreciate these videos and all the work we're doing, but it's apparent to me that we have a real uphill battle in our efforts, especially around safe sleeping.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone in here has seen recent television advertisements from one of our hospital systems that shows a young baby in a crib with a blanket who's then approached by her father, who actually climbs into the crib with her. And it's advertised as how to bond and create a relationship with your child. And this organization has made an extreme effort to counter that type of message that's going out. And I know that Julie's worked to do some outreach to that hospital system to encourage them to take that advertisement off. In spite of those efforts, I was watching the Giants lose last night, and there was that advertisement several times. And it's discouraging to me that a hospital system, of all the groups that are out there, would create an advertisement that encourages co-sleeping with an infant. Right. I just wanted to share that with everyone. If you haven't seen that, look on YouTube. It's there.
Yeah. We are working hard to get that pulled. As you would expect, it comes from their corporate headquarters and not the local hospitals, who actually have a place not only on the Reducing African American Child Death, the steering committee. There's actually a member from that health system on the steering committee, and she's doing lots of work, and that was our contact, and she has brought it up the levels to corporate. We thought it was being pulled, and then we're disappointed to see that it's still on there. So still working. CAPC is also definitely taking a lead in trying to make that connection and get that off, but their intent is to show, bonding and human kindness, but they're doing it in a way that is counter to all of the safe sleep messages that we are putting out in the community.
Commissioner Wirtz.
Thank you. Two things. One, I was pleased to hear in the strategic planning piece that the Board of Supervisors was looking at how county services could play a role to make sure that we do not lose services and so on. And I guess it's part of the strategic sustainability efforts to try to ensure that, as you know, I've argued at times that the First Five became a funding of last resort, so to speak, and I'm hoping that this is the chance that we look at county taking back some of the responsibility, I think, as shared by us as a full community on some of these services. So I appreciate that dialogue going, and I expect to see that continue. I'm hoping, and if there's anything we can do to probably through the Sustainability Committee to make that happen, I just wanted to highlight that. And then thank you for the update on the immigration and deportation kinds of issues, and I appreciate Supervisor Kennedy doing that work. I also want to just note that the Sacramento City Council is taking this issue up on May 4th at their hearing, and should be looking at a what's generically called a safe haven kind of city, and perhaps it would be useful for us to keep track of that and see how we might tie into that. But so I think it's at 5:30 on May 4th, the Wednesday.
Great.
So thank you for those efforts.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else for Julie? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 4, public hearing, adoption of the fiscal year 2017-18 recommended budget and 10-year financial plan.
For this one, I'm going to turn it over to Eric. He's been sitting here for the last couple of meetings, but hasn't had the opportunity to speak yet. So this is his first real jump in.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission. My name is Eric Harold. I am the Chief of Administration for First 5 Sacramento. I'm presenting to you today the fiscal year 17-18 recommended budget and 10-year financial plan. As a matter of procedure, this budget was submitted to the County Executive's Office in February of 2017 and was approved by the Financial Planning Committee on April 6, 2017. Going forward, the final budget process will begin in July and come before the Commission August 7th for approval. In your packets, I've included 4 attachments. The first 3 represent the same information, just in different formats, and that is the recommended budget data. The 4th attachment is the 10-year financial plan. In this presentation, we will primarily focus on attachment 2 and 4. The fiscal year 17-18 is the 3rd and final year of the Commission's 2015 strategic plan. This recommended budget follows the direction and funding priorities set forth in that plan. Overall, there are $29.3 million in expenditures, $12.6 million in revenue, and $16.6 million in reserve funding. Now, if you refer to attachment 2, near the top and on the left-hand side, the boxed-in numbers, you're able to see that of the $29.3 million in expenditures, 93.2% goes towards program activities. 2.2% goes towards evaluation, and 4.6% goes towards administration. Immediately below those numbers, you also have expenditure amounts and percentages based on result area. For the recommended budget, we are anticipating 2 large one-time expenditures in fiscal year 17-18, and that includes $1.7 million in MA backcasting, which is the Medi-Cal administrative activities, and $2.8 million for the Golden State Water Fluoridation Capital Project. In June, the Commission will be presented with a decision on how to proceed with the capital projects. On the revenue side, Proposition 56 was passed by the voters, and this directly affects the Proposition 10 revenues we will receive. From strictly a financial analysis standpoint, Proposition 56 has both negative and positive impacts. One of the negatives is that it adds a $2 excise tax onto every tobacco product. This in turn will create less consumption and lower the revenues. Also, Prop 56 raises the minimum age from 18 to 21 for the purchase of tobacco products. Obviously, if you eliminate part of your consumer base, you're going to eliminate sales and therefore drive down some of our revenues. And the third point is that there is an anticipated increase in tax evasion or cash sales that go unreported. On the positive side, the financial impacts include that Proposition 56 will include backfill for, obviously they recognize that Prop 10 will be impacted by these and we would have a reduction in revenues. So Prop 56 built into the proposition to backfill those revenue losses. However, it will still maintain the natural decline of roughly 2.5% annually. They also redefine the products, what a tobacco product is essentially, to include vaping products and accessories. Now, the implementation of Proposition 56 is not the best scenario for the counties. Essentially, the negative impacts will occur immediately, and the backfill will not occur until the following year in fiscal year 18-19. So what this essentially means is in the current recommended budget, there will be a 15.2% drop in revenues, which is equivalent to $2 million. And then the following year, in 18-19, it will be replaced by the backfill, which is a 16.2% increase, or $1.8 million based on those current figures for that year. Now, we utilize Proposition 56 is a big mystery on how it's all going to come together and what the numbers will look like. So what we did is we utilized First Five Association numbers who worked with California Department of Finance as well as the Board of Equalization to come up with revenue estimates for all the counties in the state, and we use those figures. To review the reserve fund, if you look at attachment 2 again, in the call-out box at the bottom right, you're able to see that the beginning reserve balance is $40.3 million. We are anticipating a fund balance of $3.6 million. And in order to meet allocation levels for the recommended budget, it will require a reserve release of $13 million. At the end of the fiscal year 17-18 recommended budget period, the reserve balance will be an estimated $23.7 million. If you refer to attachment 4, the 10-year financial plan, you're able to see how the recommended budget fits into the 10-year plan. And the recommended budget is the green highlighted column there. The key items to look for, at least when I'm doing my analysis of the 10-year plan, is you fit in the current recommended budget and you look to make sure that your next strategic planning periods are still funded the way they were planned, and overall how the reserve balance ends up at the end of the 10-year plan. So if you look at the funding levels, it is the blue highlighted row at the bottom of the sheet. You can see that for the fiscal year, for the 2018 strategic plan, we are funded at $20,050,000 each year, respectively, for the 3 years. And then for the 2021, before I proceed, I should note that that $20,050,000 represents a 19.2% reduction from the prior year, after there's an adjustment for the one-time expenditure encumbrances. The 2021 strategic plan is funded at $14.2 million per year and represents a 28.9% reduction from the previous strategic plan period. Now, as you can see, the balance of the reserve at the time, if you refer over to the column towards the right, it's the second column from the right hand side, it's labeled fiscal year 24-25. If you look at the bottom in the green highlighted, in the yellow highlighted box, you will see what our ending fund balance, our ending reserve balance is at $3.1 million. We will be keeping that fund balance at that level or higher to represent 3 months of operating expenses, and we'll only use that for cash flow issues or emergency contingencies. It will no longer be used to support program activities at that point. Fiscal year 24-25 also marks the first year that we will solely operate off of current revenues. Prior to this meeting, I also had added to the packet an additional chart that is titled the 5-year funding summary. This chart was requested by Commissioner Cerna during last year's recommended budget presentation, and it essentially is a historical look at funding based on result area for the last 5 years. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Moak.
Thanks. I guess one question, as it relates probably more to the Prop 56 component, and I don't know if that's necessarily, maybe it's a question for all of us, but as one of the intended funded entities of Prop 56, from my understanding, is for dental, it's provider services for dental care, prevention, education, to the tune of, I think originally it was $30 million a year, I think, would be allocated there. So I guess my question is, what is that? Does that mean anything for us if we're all doing the same thing? How do we look at that differently, if at all? If that is of the extra $2 or whatever, I think that takes the tax up to $2 and whatever it is, 87 cents, or I think is what Prop 56 ultimately does. What part of that do we need to strategically look at so that we're not double funding to the, I'm sure now Dr. Jones, I can hear his race to his button. I get it. I just think in the spirit of where this is going, I just think we need to all, as many entities, funding entities as possible, need to work together to align better what our funding priorities are.
No, it's a great question, and I wish Dr. Kasiri was here. We were just talking about the other day, because the county health department actually gets a slice of that money, but the Prop 56 dollars to come in to work on issues, dental issues and issues that they wanted to cover too. So we were talking about just that thing, like how would we coordinate what the county money will be and what First Five is doing. And so overall, I think that Dr. K's plan for their money, for the county money, was to try to hold on to it because we have the new Dental Transformation Initiative grant coming into the county. And the goal there is to hire several positions for the next 4 years that would be able to implement the DTI grant. And as that money goes away, the county could potentially use the Prop 56 money to continue those efforts to a certain degree. And First Five's part of that is we work really closely in tandem with what the county's programs are. So we build on each other and complement each other's programs, but we would not be duplicating each other's programs at all. And I'm sure Dr. Jones wants to add something.
I would just also point out, Scott, that looking at the bar chart that I requested, the next fiscal year will have us committing more than we had in at least the 4 prior years since we've been showing it on this chart.
Yes. Yes.
For dental.
For dental. And that slice of the chart, I'll probably ask Eric to talk about it, is slightly misleading because it's rolling over of funds that we put in every year and don't spend around the fluoridation projects. So it looks like it's $3 million or $4 million or however many.
There's $2.8 million.
But it's preserved, is my point. Right?
Yeah, whether it's spent or not.
Yeah.
It is a priority.
Right. And so it looks deceptive as if we've spent all that money, but it really is just kind of keep rolling to the next year. We plan to bring to you at the June commission meeting a presentation on sort of all things dental happening right now, where we can probably answer quite a few of your questions. And we're going to be bringing to you an update on the Dental Transformation Initiative grant, request to actually spend some of that fluoridation money and move forward with the project. And as well as follow-up from the Barbara Avid study on why parents aren't taking their kids to the dentist. We've brought on an intern and are working on implementing some of the recommendations from that report, and just a general update on Smile Keepers and what's happening with that program. So sort of an all things dental update at the next commission meeting, and a request to consider funding for some fluoridation project.
Commissioner Wirtz.
Thank you. I think you answered part of the question. So I'm just sort of factual about tracking the amounts. Looking at the projected 16-17 year, looks like we were at 24 million overall on attachment 4, and the projected budget for 17-18 is the 29. And
Right.
And that's generally, that looks like that's I'm interested in, that the gap in red, 16.6 million, is larger than previous years, and part of that is because you carried over the 2.8 million, and part is the 1.7 million for the MA.
Mm-hmm.
And can you explain, two things? How, the third part is the backfill, that we're losing the 2 million from the revenue side. So I have two questions, so let's keep them separate. So one is, can you help me out with the MA and understanding that 1.7 number? And then the second question has to do with that backfill, with the reduction from Prop 10 sources. So I'll wait on that one.
Okay, well, the MA backfill, as I understand it, was some MA invoices that were paid to us that later on the state had decided that they didn't like the invoice setup or the claim plan. I'm not exactly sure. This was years ago.
Yeah.
And so therefore they were going to repay them, or they were going to, we asked that they just short us the payment based on how much they thought was owed back to them. Because essentially what they were asking for is, we want you to pay us back these invoices, but we're going to pay you back when we fix the invoices. So this is really a net neutral zero, but the way the state insisted on doing it was us pay them and then we get paid back. And from what I understand, we've already been paid the money and therefore it's been encumbered at $1.7 million. And as soon as they're not the quickest, I have been finding out as far as MA's concerned. So once we get those invoices, we have the funds encumbered and they will be spent or paid back to the state.
I can add a quick thing to that. I believe that this all came about when MA rules changed from just a time study once per month, which is what we had been doing for several years, to continual time study. And they continued to pay us at the rate that was the once per month time study for several years before catching that that's what was going on. And so essentially First Five was overpaid and now owes the state back this money, which we've tried in various ways to pay back, and they're not accepting the money back, but we have to carry it on our books. I'm sure one day we will have to pay this money back. It's just we haven't been able to pay it back yet.
And I guess my concern would be that it would be better that we pay it back in smaller chunks than hitting all at once, and especially as we go into the future. But
I'm not sure we have any control over that.
We get a bill and it's due.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you. That's helpful. Sorry for backtracking on that. Then I wasn't quite sure how to understand the one-time reduction. After we get this reduction this first time, then we don't get that back. We just get a regular amount going on from the next years.
It's basically a delayed implementation. They're collecting all the funding for the first years, our first year, and then they use that funds to backfill the next year. And so if this ever ended, they would have one extra year of funding in their coffers.
And we're losing that year right now.
Yes.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity.
Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion about the Prop 56, and I think in the context of that, it should be emphasized that the $30 million, although very significant, is a small portion of what Prop 56 funds do go for. A lot of it has to do with reduction of tobacco usage, so they'll continue to do that, as well as a variety of oral health needs. Just this month, April, Dr. Kumar published, and it's on the California Department of Public Health, the status of oral health and oral disease burden and prevention 2017. And he looked at that throughout the state, not just here in Sacramento County. And I think it's significant that we look at that and see that there is a considerable need for resources to be deployed. It's something that, just like our revenues are targeted at lower socioeconomic needs, most of the oral health and oral disease problems focus on pockets of poor service, lack of access, and the disease burden disproportionately hits our African American, our Hispanic, and our lower socioeconomic groups. So I think that's real important that we look at that in the Prop 56 in a broad way. With regard to the amount of money that we have allocated in the past and are reserving for fluoridation, among other things, dental, it's important to note that these projects we've talked about are infrastructure projects. You have a one-time funding mechanisms, like we started this whole community water fluoridation back in 2001 with Cal-Am Parkway, 46,000 customers, 3,358 0 to 5-year-old children received water fluoridation. We went to Cal-Am Arden, 4,100 customers. Cal-Am Suburban, 34,000. Sac Suburban South, 68,000. Sacramento County's Zone 41, 134,000 people were served by our capital improvement projects. And I think what we are missing, and we've talked about this, we show it in different formats. What we're missing here is that those projects, funded at one time, are continuing to serve 20,962 kids every single day. And when we reach that 2018 or 2021 reserves of 3 million left, they'll continue to serve the 20,962 kids, regardless of whether there's another dime spent. Mm-hmm. And so to me, capital improvements, just like we spent for the 23 tot lots, just like we spent for the 5 dental clinics, are one-time expense, admittedly difficult to sometimes bring everybody together, but once done, go on, their benefit goes on. And I think, that shouldn't be overlooked. Thank you.
Commissioner Elliott.
I'm happy. It's hard to follow that, but so the reason why I like budgets, and I think everyone on this dais would agree, is that this is a visual portrayal of our priorities, and dental is one of the top 3. And I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Moak said, though, is that as we look at the declining revenues, this is one of my bigger things, what you said, Julie, is helpful, and I know that you guys are doing that, but I think that continued discussions around how we're going to do that are really important in public settings, because the breastfeeding, R5 of our strategic plan and R6, you don't see a visual difference in that in the strategic plan, yet when you look at our budget, it's clearly more of a priority, but there's bigger infrastructure needs, and so I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I think it's right. But where we can utilize resources that either the county or the state is offering to our residents, I think we really need to focus on that and communicate it all of the time, because I need to hear it. I need to know that we aren't duplicating efforts. Again, I don't think that's what's happening here, but if we could just continue to have those conversations around how the Sustainability Committee can be influential here. I think the strategic planning and the budget subcommittees, we all need to be on the same page about how we're going to start utilizing resources that could exist, or we could supplement. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you. And this is, by the way, I love the visual.
Oh, thank you.
This looks really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and invite any member of the public that wishes to address the commission on this item to come forward. Not seeing any, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to this commission for deliberation. Any further comment, questions, suggestions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the adoption of fiscal year 2017-2018 recommendation.
Okay. The chair will second. Roll call vote, please.
Dave Gordon.
Aye.
Steve Orts.
Aye.
Terrence Jones.
Aye.
Paul Lake.
Aye.
Scott Moe.
Aye.
Phil Cerna.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Very good, thank you. And thanks again to all our staff that I know had a lot to do with the team effort to get us to this point. So again, thank you. This is one of the more important things we do obviously on an annual basis, and I know it's not getting any easier, but with your help and that of our committee structure, I think we're making the most informed decisions that we can. So thanks again. All right, next item, please.
Item 5, public hearing, annual review of the First 5 Sacramento 2015 strategic plan.
We have Carmen Garcia Gomez to take this one on.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Every year, the Commission reviews and holds a public hearing on its strategic plan. Today, we will hold a hearing on the 2015 strategic plan, which the Commission is currently operating within. The 2015 strategic plan is clear and concise. All known planned expenditures at this time are in alignment with the priorities, goals, and results areas contained in the strategic plan, and we have no recommendations for changes at this time. Fiscal impact, the planned expenditures for the 3-year strategic plan period total $75.2 million, which includes administrative and evaluation cost. The expenditures for the year 1, 15-16 fiscal year of the strategic plan were $21.7 million. The projected expenditures for the current fiscal year, which is year 2 of the strategic plan, are $24.2 million. And the total budgeted amount for the last year, next fiscal year starting July 1st, is $29.3 million. This is a decrease of $5.2 million since the initial approval of the 2015 strategic plan in 2014. Last year, during the same meeting when we had our annual review, we explained to you where those that $5.2 million decrease was based on various result areas that included school readiness and others. Attachment 1 shows you our current strategic hierarchy, which we are currently operating under. Again, we are not recommending any changes at this time. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, and my understanding is that where'd our council go? It's my understanding that this is a public hearing, but there's no vote?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Any questions of staff? Okay. Open the public hearing. Invite any member of the public to address this commission on this item. Not seeing anyone coming forward. I'll close the public hearing. And again, this is just for an update and for our review. No vote today.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Item 6, a presentation, Birth and Beyond evaluation.
Okay.
For this item, we have our partners from CAPC and consultant LPC, Evaluation Consulting, to give us the presentation. Oh.
And the wonderful Richard Dana from
Richard
Mutual
Dana.
Assistance Network.
Fantastic.
Good afternoon, all. Richard Dana, Mutual Assistance Network. I'm just the kickoff to this. Sheila Box is going to do the hard work and do the presentation. But I did want to start by saying thank you so much to the First 5 Commission and to the staff. This has been a partnership all the way through, and the results you're going to see today are in large part because of the great work that we do together. You know, it's no mystery that they attend our meetings, and all of our work is done hand in hand, so we really appreciate it very much. Birth and Beyond is 9 different locations throughout Sacramento, 6 different organizations, overseeing those home visitation and family resource center sites. And then the 7th organization is Child Abuse Prevention Center, which acts as the coordinating body to make sure that we are well trained in our work, that we also are providing a unified form of service so that measurables can be really utilized. What you're going to see today in the presentation is a combination of both 0 to 5 and +6. And the reason we're including +6 is because that's been recently added on to our services through funding by the county. Within that, it's really just a baseline. Don't focus on results for that because it's really early in the funding, and that's just the baseline component. I've heard today some questions about duplication of services, things like that. One of the important parts is that through this evaluation, through our data collection, we're able to really break apart the services to show the difference between what's happening with 0 to 5 families and +6. So please recognize that. And finally, I want to thank our evaluative consultants, LPC. Without them, we really couldn't actually do this kind of data analysis. And it's really important because it shows the future of what we're projecting and what we've done over the last few years with your great support. So thank you very much. You're on.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here for your amusement because it will take me, again, about 3 tries to figure out how to move the slides. I never learn, so I don't know why. I'm delighted to be able to be here to present these evaluation results, and I want to echo what Richard said. This is a little bit different kind of evaluation because it really is looking at a snapshot of fiscal year 15-16, and that will serve to some extent as a baseline for some of the data that we collect in the coming year. This is the first year with the 6+ families, and so it's a little bit different, and there have been some modifications, as well as some modifications due to some findings from prior evaluations. So we're really excited to now have this data available that we can use for the future. Here it goes. Great. Okay. What we're going to be looking at and talking about today is a fairly comprehensive look at some of the elements of service in Birth and Beyond. And often we really focus only on the home visitation as it relates to CPS recidivism. But what we wanted to do is give you an overview and some of the scope and range of some of the other services that happen as well. Because there really are 4 key components. One certainly being the home visitation, that's the most intensive service. Also the effective parenting workshops, which are evidence-based workshops that are available in the home and in the family resource centers. Crisis intervention services. That was something that got added about halfway through the life of the program when we realized that, in fact, families coming in with really serious crisis situations, that crisis situation had to be dealt with first, and then you could begin to have a case plan and work on other issues with the family. And finally, what we lovingly refer to as enhanced core services. And that's really all of those additional services and supports and referrals that are necessary to really assist the family in meeting their goals. I mean, it's not a wraparound program, but it's akin to that in terms of the scope of the services. There are going to be 3 types of data that are involved in what I'm going to present today. One is the regular data that's collected at the site and then reported to our independent consultants for aggregating and analyzing and so on. The second part is actually Child Protective Services data, and we have been really fortunate since the beginning of this program to have a great partnership with CPS and thereby have access to the data so that we can look at recidivism. And the third piece of information and data in here is the qualitative information that the independent consultants used in interviewing 176 staff, managers, and parents. And that has given us some really rich information as well. This map shows you really the array of services geographically. There were 6,500 unduplicated families who received services. They may have only received one of the core services, or they may have accessed all of them and multiple types of the enhanced services. But in unduplicated, there were 6,500. You can see where the nice red stars are. That's the location of each of the family resource centers, and then the coloring, the darker the blue is, the greater the concentration of families in that area who were served.
Yeah. Sheila, real quick on that, before you leave that slide. So for instance, the delineation between the boundary that has the River Oak Center for Children star versus the La Familia star, is that how are we interpreting that? That is a shed, so to speak, for service delivery for that particular family resource center?
The Family Resource Centers all have in their contracts what zip codes they're going to serve.
But these are zip code boundaries.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that doesn't mean that that's exactly how families perceive the community that they're a part of, right, and where they go to services. So they're not turned away and said, no, you should be over here. Mm-hmm. So in some cases, the same zip code may serve residents from, families can go where they want to. So within a zip code, it's not distinct that that's where they must go. And they do make some self-selection for a variety of reasons that are, how they want to receive services. People aren't turned away and told, no, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong zip code. They may be sort of gradually, given a warm handoff, or sometimes they move from one place to the other. Right. But they're not all distinct, and it's not boundaries. So,
for instance, because River Oak Center for Children has now moved a little to the south, as you know, to the 95820 right, zip code, and is literally kind of on the other side of the freeway 99 from La Familia, which serves the area more or less south and west of the freeway. Right. How could we expect this map to look any different next year, given the fact that those two family resource centers are now closer to each other?
Well, I don't have a good crystal ball, but I would say that because there has been a change in location, we may well see some more concentration of population. Okay. And also, La Familia is also providing some services in Galt, on a not continuous basis, but periodically. But in addition to looking to what that means in terms of the location of the FRCs, what we also see when we look at the data that by decades in terms of families going into CPS or other services, there are population shifts that happen that way too. So there's multiple factors mm-hmm. that will influence how that map looks.
So, for instance, the area that has the La Familia star, that doesn't mean that amount of service, those families being served in that area were not necessarily just served by La Familia. They could have been served by River Oak, right?
That's correct. And we actually have the data if you wanted to break down by
right, because
site.
You have areas here that are delineated by zip code that don't have any family resource center in them. So I assume that they're just jointly being served by.
They're either coming to the nearest family
right.
resource center or some other place of their choice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And just so you know, how do people get into the program? Where do they come from? How are they referred? 36% of them are self-referrals. And that's actually a really good thing. What we find is after a family resource center has been in a community for a while, there's a lot of trust. And so people actually come in and it's not stigmatized. In-house referrals being typically somebody might come in for crisis intervention and then be referred on to home visitation or other services once that initial issue has been dealt with. CPS referrals are 7% and all other referrals are 24%. And that's everything from other community-based organizations, hospitals, clinics, other county departments, a wide variety of places. So then we started looking at the age breakdown, and it's interesting because it's not just 0 to 5 or 6 and over, because as you know, families can have multiple children of multiple ages. And so the way we've broken it down in terms of this analysis is that 41% of the families have only a child or children age 0 to 5, 41% also have at least one child 0 to 5 and at least one child 6 or older. And then 18% only have children or a child 6 plus. And there are also families who come in before they have a child in pregnancy and so on. So this is just for those that, in fact, have a child that's been born. You can also see there that when we break it down a little further, 1 and under is 24%, 2 to 5, 29%, 6 to 12, 36%, and 13 to 17, 11%. So that's currently the breakdown. I suspect that that may also evolve over time because remember we were just beginning services to the 6+ families, so we'll have to see how that changes over time.
Sheila, before you go on, can I ask a quick?
Sure.
The breakdown of how many of those families, or what the percentage is that are receiving home visitation versus another service?
We're going to get to that. This is all services, so when we get to we're going to break out each one of the service modes, if that's okay.
Sure.
We'll get there. And in fact, we're going to get there pretty quickly because now we're going to talk about home visitation. We're going to talk about each of the 4 components now, just really in terms of scope of services, and then we'll talk a little bit about the impact after that. So in terms of home visitation, just for First 5, 1,677 families funded by First 5 received home visitation, or funded for the services. Of those, 226, or about a third, received a joint visit with Birth and Beyond and CPS. And so that means that a Birth and Beyond home visitor went out with a CPS social worker at the same time, at least one time, typically transitioning the family. 77% of the new cases, and by new I mean in the first 45 days, received a case review by a multidisciplinary resource team. And because we love to have little clever ways to keep people from knowing what we're talking about, we call them MRTs. And the MRTs are comprised of Birth and Beyond staff, as well as representatives from DHA, CPS, WIC, our domestic violence partners, local law enforcement, public health nurses, and the local school districts. So there truly is an attempt, in terms of that question about duplication, there isn't duplication because everybody's coming together to see what piece of services they can provide or how they can help to support the family. And that all goes into the case plan. So it is truly multidisciplinary. 65% of the closed cases received at least 8 hours of home visitation, but I'm happy to tell you that the average number was 28 hours. And you may recall in our previous evaluation, we were given a span of time that was the optimum amount of home visitation, and that was 25 to 34 hours. And so the program really has been working to make that the standard for the services whenever possible. And obviously it's a voluntary service, so it's not as though someone is court-ordered to continue with it or that sort of thing. They get to make that choice. 58%, which is 973 of the families with children 2 to 5, received a school readiness home visit, and 52% had 2 child assessments, really looking at the ages and stages, looking at developmental issues, special needs, those kinds of things.
Okay, so now I'll ask. Can I ask now?
Yes.
So what that's showing is that of the 6,500 families that are in the Birth and Beyond universe, unduplicated families, 1,677 of them, so approximately 25%, receive home visitation.
Who were First 5 families.
Yeah.
That 6,000 plus is also the families that were served under the DHHS funding as well.
Okay. And then from the, I guess what I was trying to ultimately get at was on that pie chart slide. If you can you go back one? I know this is, I'm sorry. So
yes, you're really testing my technology skills.
So on that 18%, I've always been fascinated by the families, especially those with ones that have a 4 or even 5-year-old that are just starting to get in the home visitation mix, and then move up. And the answer is not, okay, your kid's 6, so see ya, right? I know you encourage them to get involved in other services, other core services, or family or parenting support classes, or whatever it might be. But I guess my curiosity when I saw that 18% of families who have a child 6+, like what is the home visitation kind of norm for them, if any?
Well, I don't know that there is a norm, in fact, for that age children, because as we all know, things sort of change in the family as the child ages, and sometimes there is an element or a component of nurturing parenting program that is specifically for kids in that age group.
Yeah,
and actually, one of the reasons that we break down things that you're going to see later into the age groups is because that's the way the nurturing parenting program curricula is. And so it's a little bit different when it's the older kids. There's a separate work for them and separate work for the parents, as opposed to, here's the little baby coming in. So, but it is all still part of the nurturing parenting program and obviously the evidence-based practice.
Okay.
And we can get you lots more detail on those different components. Okay. Parenting workshops. I want to be clear, these are the workshops that are the evidence-based workshops that have a very prescribed curricula and outcomes and measurements. So there, in addition to that, some sort of fun things and some other things that happen. But when we're talking about the parent workshops in this case, these are the evidence-based models. And they include Making Parenting a Pleasure, Dare to Be You, and 4 different versions of Nurturing Parenting program, one for toddlers and infants, one prenatal, one for fathers, and one school age. These are intensive and they are very lengthy. It's quite a commitment for families to complete these. And so they go from 18 hours to 30 hours in duration. So it is a big commitment. What we have seen from prior evaluations, it's not necessarily the completion rate that indicates success as much as the number of hours they participate and their connection in the FRC. And 12 of the first 5 families, 1,209 were involved in these parenting classes. And we had some, 54%, who were mandated to come to the Family Resource Center for these classes. They did indeed do that. The next component of the program being crisis intervention. There were 2,300 families through first 5 who came, and these families might have had more than one referral or more than one activity. So this doesn't just mean necessarily that it's one incident and one time. And the definition of crisis is quite broad. To some extent, it's the perception of the family as well as the people providing the service. Certainly a large component of the crisis interventions had to do with financial issues and public assistance, and that might include housing and related things. And then about 18% were domestic violence referrals. And that is really critical because it's only been a few years ago that we actually had funds to utilize to contract with the domestic violence service providers in the community. And they are now in the resource centers and outside of them working with these families. And that's been a really huge benefit because that is unfortunately a significant presenting issues and part of crisis for these families.
Sheila, can I just ask a quick clarification?
Sure.
These crisis intervention services are not the crisis nursery.
No.
But some of the referrals.
But there may be referrals.
Yes,
there are lots of referrals to the crisis nursery.
Just wanted to clarify.
It's all the home visitors and staff are trained in that and know what those services are, and they have Roy on speed dial.
Yes. Thank you.
The enhanced core services. This is a big category, and in fact, we have a multi-page matrix of all the enhanced services that are available by Family Resource Center, and it's pretty impressive. It's basically all those other things that families need to be stabilized, and it varies by family and what needs they present and what access we can provide to them. The categories are pretty broad. So, for example, health and well-being is everything from exercise, dental referrals, safe car seats, safe sleep, stress reduction, self-defense, AA meetings, a whole variety of things that run that gamut. Life skills and community supports 26% of those services. Supports groups, language classes, personal development, employment, dads groups, anger management, and so on are all in that category. Specialty activities for the little ones, mommy or daddy and me, music and movement, arts and crafts, parent-child, fitness, and so on. And for the school-age kids, of course, it's slightly different. And in that case, it's tutoring, bully prevention, support groups, resume building, all sorts of things that they might need. Interestingly, play care has been incredibly popular. And when LPC Consulting did their interviews with parents, that's one of their favorite things and one of the things they truly appreciate, and one of the reasons that they keep coming to the Family Resource Centers. It enables them to go to the parenting classes. It's often the first time their child has been in the care of someone else. And so the child is also learning behaviors and working in a group and obeying somebody else and not hitting Johnny with the block and, you know, all the kinds of things that are helpful and really are school readiness skills as well as social and emotional development. And then there are so many activities. I know all of you get invitations every week to some event at some Family Resource Center, because that social interaction that happens, as we know well, is one of the protective factors that helps to prevent child abuse and neglect. Having families not be in isolation, be connected to their community. So it is not frivolous at all.
Commissioner Elliott?
Do you want us to save our questions for the end, Phil? Or
chime in.
whatever you
Just,
wanna
I'd
do.
only ask you to chime in using the screen so I can see which order you.
Got it. Okay. I just really fast. The breakdown of the percentages, is that the breakdown of the large the 1,300 events? And it was broken down into the health, life skills?
No, these
Oh,
are
okay.
in addition to the events.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, one of the other things we know that is a huge risk factor for child abuse and neglect is stress in the family, whether it's one of the parents or some other event that's going on in the family that causes stress. And so we measure that, and there were 3,805 pre-post assessments. These are self-assessments by the parents. And the areas that we looked at were how did they rate their level of stress? It sort of reminds me when you go into the doctor's office and say, so the pain, 1 to 10, and you kind of figure it out. So they do that same sort of thing. Also, very importantly, how do they think the stress is affecting their children? Then what sort of support do they have? Do they have family or friends or community members who are supporting them that they can go to when they're under stress? And finally, do they even know where to go to get help? All of these, by the way, are also part of the protective factors that we know are part of the family strengthening principles. And what we saw is that in each area there was a change in a positive direction that was statistically significant at the 0.05 level. And the greatest movement we saw great movement in many of them, and they're all interrelated, obviously, but those are very important indicators of a reduced risk.
Commissioner Lake.
Yeah, Sheila, thank you for this. I'm wondering, have these measures been validated in any way to really show a correlation between this self-perceived and self-reported stress and actual risk to children? Is there a validation study to show that this is a true predictor of risk?
I don't, let me look at my evaluators back there.
Come to the microphone, please.
Family development. Yeah. So yes, these are.
Why don't you come to the microphone,
Yes.
please?
Stephanie Biegler, thank you. The assessment tool was based on the Family Development Matrix, which was developed and supported by the State Office of Child Abuse Prevention years ago. And these are validated through the Family Development Matrix and then further strengthened by the Protective Factors Survey, which also is coordinated by the Office of Child Abuse Prevention as well as the Federal Administration for Children, Youth, and Families.
Can somebody maybe send me some documentation
Absolutely.
that shows this? Because I have some questions about the analysis here, but I'll save those for a different time.
Okay.
We'll get that out to everybody so that if you're interested, you can take a look at it. Thank you. Good question. This slide is designed to be hard for you to understand, so I'm here to interpret, I guess. There's a lot going on here. What we're looking at is really measuring the change in parents' knowledge and attitudes. And what you see there is the light blue is infants and toddlers, and the dark blue is school-age children. And we're looking at 5 different areas in terms of change in their knowledge and attitudes. Now, this is a part of the Nurturing Parenting Program, the evidence-based program, and the findings are based on the assessment tool that goes as a part of that program, the AAPI, and we can give you more information about that if you'd like to know. But what we looked at in this case is what they expected of their children. These are the key elements of the Nurturing Parenting Program, the areas that they want to see change, and it certainly has been used in other states, and there have been a number of significant evaluations. Empathy toward children's needs, that's actually the most important one in terms of the measurement. Use of corporal punishment, parent-child roles, and children's power. By that, do they have a voice? Are they seen as a whole human being, not an appendage or a possession or whatever you how you might characterize that. In this case, again, with the pre-post scores, they're statistically significant in each area, although the biggest change was in empathy and use of corporal punishment.
Scott?
Just real quick, one thing. When I look at something like this, I'm quickly reminded of back when this started when we were all teenagers, when this all started. One of the things that and Lynn knows this, that we measured was drug and alcohol use among families that were participating in our programs. And what we quickly found after year 1 or 2 or 3 or something was that drug and alcohol use was actually increasing as people were engaged in the program.
Yes.
And we immediately stopped and went, what the heck is going on? Why, this is not a program that's increasing people's drug and alcohol use. And in fact, what we realized was that the trust and engagement with these between home visitors or service providers and families was skyrocketing, and therefore they were at one point lying and not disclosing the fact that they were using. And then later in a post-test or in a test at some point, an assessment at some point during the life of their case, they felt comfortable enough to disclose that that's what was going on. So anytime that these things around corporal punishment, certainly substance use and those types of things, that's a very special dynamic that has to happen as it relates to these programs in order for you to even measure it at all. And so that's where, I don't want to lose within the data, I don't want to lose how strong and important the relationship part of this program has been and continues to be. So I know that we can cut this a bunch of different ways and you can poke it, but at the end of the day, these people oftentimes will not report anything. They won't take the post-assessment if they don't have the proper amount of trust involved and are engaged enough with the program staff. So I just want to.
You're absolutely right. The relationship is pivotal, and that's one of the reasons that we started and continue to advocate for the notion that home visitation provided in concert with family resource centers is such an important model, because the individual home visitor, the typical tenure is not that long, whether they're staff, AmeriCorps members, whatever program they're in. And so if that's the only person that there's a trust relationship with, something may happen later. The family may still be in poverty. Issues of crisis may come up. Someone may get sick. So having them transition into the Family Resource Center so there's now a place to go when something happens or you need information is, we think, really pivotal to the long-term stability of the family.
Julie?
Just a quick question. It looks like, so this would be the first year for the school-age child results up here, correct?
Correct.
And it looks like they're significantly less result, like the 0 to 5 families did better? the gaps look bigger, like more change happened. Do you have any comments or anything that you've seen about why that might be true?
You have someone sneaking up behind you.
We could look at trend data and see, is this consistent over the years for the 0 to 5s, and we might be able to say that this is consistent, it trends the same way. But I know this is the first year for 6+, so I was just curious.
Hi, I'm Shannon Williams with LPC. Of course, this is going to be just speculation, but I think if you look about the effort in changing behavioral patterns in a parent and attitudes, once they've been parenting for 6+ years, I think that the expected change might be a little bit lower, and it might be a little bit more of a heavy lift for the parenting curriculum.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Dr. Kusuri?
Oh, it's me, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I pressed it. Sorry about that. I just have a couple of questions. I have the same question about page 6, the one we're doing, Outcomes, Parent Knowledge Management, as Commissioner Lake did of the last page, regarding the tools used and the validity and reliability of them, because it's just hard to take at face value. These are, first of all, difficult things to measure, as you well know. Right. So I have a question about that, and then my other question still relates back to page 6, and I think it's probably my misunderstanding of the end quality, but when I look at the right-hand side of the age range of children, families served, I count between 1 and under up to 5 at 53%, and then from then on between 6 and 17 at 47%. And my question becomes, of course, with families coming in, you would honor siblings in the family and so forth, and as Commissioner Moak said, you don't want to just say goodbye at 6. No one that I imagine would not be a proponent of that. But I'm still a little confused at 53% being 5 and under, given, our position. So I have those two questions. Sorry to backtrack on the second one.
I'll take the second one. Go first.
Okay, you do the first.
I'm not quite clear what the question is regarding the age ranges. The question, is it more the way the data is presented or the trend?
Well, is it that, and maybe, again, it's my misunderstanding of the N in relation to the overall and the unduplicated and all that, but I see on 6 under age ranges that between 1 and under up to 5, 53% of those served were 5 and under.
I see what you're saying.
Am I misunderstanding? The fourth slide. Yeah, page 6, fourth slide, B&B reach in Sac County. That's right. Thank you.
So this chart is looking at the total number of children in the families, and so you're confused that half of them are the younger children. Is that?
Well, I'm just asking clarity. Is that true that half of the children served in these families, whether duplicated or unduplicated, I'm a little confused in the page before, is 53%, 5 and under?
Yes, and I think that one of the things that we have to clarify is that the children are not receiving direct services, their parents are. And so what we're doing is we're looking at the total number of children that are being affected by the program in these households, and then counting their age, basically categorizing their ages. So if you look at this being the first year of the 6+ programming, I think that it's not it's not really skewed based upon that this is the first year that those families are getting services, the school age. And I think also, if you look at the proportion of funding between First 5 and the county, the First 5, I don't have it right here, but there's quite a few more dollars that are targeting the 0 to 5 families as opposed to the 6+.
That point makes a huge difference, because that would enlighten this entire body of data.
And I'd like to, if you look in the report, I think it was table 4, it breaks out each of the service components along with the funding stream. Yeah.
But maybe, it might just be me, so let me just close by saying that maybe showing, if these are your total numbers, and knowing that our funding, of course, is focused, at least targeted towards 0 to 5, that maybe having that kind of sources of funding related for when you're going to quote the overall, would be helpful to us in understanding. At least I know it would be for me. That's all. That's all I have to say.
Okay,
Just
so
curious.
To make sure I hear what you're saying, you would like to see the breakdown of the ages of the family by funding.
Well, at the pleasure of Supervisor Cerna, it's just something that I think might help us understand a little better the targeted populations that are ending up being served. And then my second question is just about reliability and validity of the tool that you're using on the slide that you're currently looking at.
Okay. And that is the Adult Adolescent Parenting Index, and it was developed by Dr. Bavlik. And he actually developed it before he developed, my understanding, before he developed the Nurturing Parenting Program. And it's based upon 5 of those domains that are known to contribute to child abuse and neglect. And he has tested it. He's tested it among different groups, and that is on his webpage, and we could forward that to you.
But again, to Commissioner Lake's point earlier, again on the current slide, I think the validation he's at, if I heard him correctly, that he's asking for whether, you know, the response to the other question about validation was, it sounded like there is another set of studies or, you know, some research or analysis that serves as validation for a few slides ago. On this one, is there anything besides other studies and research that is not backed up with actually looking at behavior, you know, whether or not the behavior actually did change versus predicting what the behavior might do? So that's what's, I think, important about something like this.
Yeah.
Is that it's easy enough to say, okay, well, use of corporal punishment may have declined based on a self-survey instrument, but how do we know that for certain?
And that's a great evaluation question. And so when we often plan evaluations, we plan steps. So we plan short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes, meaning that we assume that a parent's knowledge and attitudes must change in order for their behaviors to change. And it's sort of a standard human intervention.
It's a surrogate. You use it as a surrogate.
It is. It's a step. And what we really want, right, is for the incident of child abuse and neglect to stop. But it's a short-term gap. So if we don't see changes in knowledges and attitude and stress reduction, we would assume that we're not making changes as far as the behavioral changes.
Okay. All right.
What we can do, though, is get you some of the research on the Nurturing Parenting Program and the use of this tool, which there have been some fairly large studies in Oregon and Louisiana. And certainly this is also listed on the Evidence-Based Clearinghouse. It does have several sources that would say this is an appropriate tool to use. We do not actually go into the home to know, we can't know exactly what may happen after that, other than what we find out from the home visits and the other work, and then of course the recidivism data, which we think is particularly compelling.
Your next set of slides, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So that would be, I guess, where we start to say, yes, we think that those other studies are correct. Okay, these are involved slides, and I will try to explain them as easily as possible, but these are where we have actually looked at recidivism data. And again, we've been really fortunate that we've had a partnership with Child Protective Services, and they have worked with our independent evaluators to get this data. What I need to tell you is, as I said in the beginning, this is really a snapshot year with this population, because we didn't have enough time with people coming into the program in July and providing services excuse me, to have a long period of time to track some of them. So what we're looking at is some of these families could have been had case closure in as little time as 2 months before this analysis was done, and some up to 12 months. The average was 8 months, and 20% of the families had the full 12 months. That's where we're starting from. Obviously, by this time next year, thank you, allergies. we should have some more. So we will look forward to that. What this slide is talking about is recidivism, and it could be up to 1 year after the case was closed. And what we did is divide it by those families who had a CPS history, those families that had no CPS history. And the history, we looked in 2 categories: inconclusive, unfounded, and substantiated, because not all reports actually turn into an open case or any subsequent activity. And so then we looked. In the beginning, there were 95% of the families who had no involvement with CPS before, and 5% who had only unfounded. And then you looked at it substantiated and see the numbers are certainly different than that. What we are really interested in primarily is what it looks like in the last column, because that's really telling us whether or not the families had a subsequent substantiated case. So we can look at that as a way of measuring whether or not there really was child abuse. We know there could be child abuse without a substantiated case, but the other thing that I think is important to know is that these families have been pretty much surrounded by people who are mandated reporters. And so we were actually afraid in the beginning of this program that what would happen is there would be this huge spike, and just like as Scott talked about the changes in substance abuse that we learned about, that we might find that the program not only caused substance abuse, but it caused child abuse. And fortunately, that did not turn out to be the case, and we're very pleased that that is the case. So this is kind of the overall slide, and then we're going to kind of dissect it a little bit. What we wanted to look at is what the difference was in those outcomes when we divided that population by those who had been referred to the program by CPS as opposed to those who came in from some other referral source. And that could be all those things that I had talked about. It could be a hospital, it could be self-referral, it could be a school, it could be all sorts of other places. So those are kind of lumped together for the purpose of this one slide. We wanted to look at pre-home visitation as compared to post-home visitation by referral source. So what we see is pre-home visitation, you can see that there is a difference between the CPS referrals and the families coming in from other referrals, in that those being referred by CPS typically had a higher percentage of any involvement with CPS, be it unfounded or be it substantiated. Then we look at the post-home visitation, and we see that among the families initially referred by CPS, 6% of them had a substantiated case post-home visitation. Of those, interestingly, about a quarter of them were families who were in aftercare, which is an area that we have really begun to look at and are partnering with CPS to look at it to see if we could actually transition some services earlier into the life of family before they were reunited with their children and no longer had access to the supports from CPS. So that's an area that just is something that I'm highlighting because we're looking at it and having some really meaningful discussions. In terms of the families who came from other referrals, you can see that pre-home visitation, 22% of them had a substantiated case, and post-home visitation, 1% did. And again, like I said, this isn't, we don't have enough time with this to do more than give you this snapshot at this point in time. We will have more information, obviously, by this time next year, and a longer duration so that we can do some other kinds of comparisons. And then finally, we looked at the data by age, and again, looking at pre-home visitation and post. And what you see is that pre-home visitation, regardless of age, they had somewhere around a third of the families had prior substantiated CPS cases, and collectively, if you combine the unfounded, around half of them had some involvement with CPS. What we think is particularly important is that post-home visitation, particularly with relationship to substantiated, you see that the number has gone down to 2% to 3%. And we are looking closely at the 0 to 5 because we know that that's the population that's most at risk and most vulnerable, and continuing to analyze that. So finally, in conclusion, there were there's a lot of data that came in. As I said, some of it qualitative because it was directly from the families and the home visitors and others who are engaged in the program. And so some of those recommendations that are included in the report are, interestingly, that we reframe and rename parent education, because there's a sense that that word education means I'm a bad parent, and so I need to be educated. And so obviously that's an easy one for us to make as a change. The second one is to review our strategies for engagement and retention. And really what we're looking at there is making sure that we are doing the best possible job to engage and serve families of every family. So regardless of ethnicity, the language that they speak, their sexual orientation, whatever it may be, that we're being particularly sensitive. And that's really relates to both 2 and 3. And we've been very fortunate that we've been able to receive funding support through Strategies 2.0, which is the training and technical assistance program funded by the Office of Child Abuse Prevention. And a little donation out of the grants from each of the partners, all the sites and the CAP Center, to bring in 2 consultants to work with the program in a collective planning model so that we can be very purposeful and mindful regarding those 2 particular recommendations. So we will keep you apprised as that process is completed. And finally, streamlining the data and paperwork. Amazingly, that came, I'm guessing, from the staff, not the parents, but probably maybe even from the parents too, because there's some of that. Our ability to do all the assessments that we need to do and to get all the data so that we can answer your questions and be informed really requires a whole lot of data and paperwork. And unfortunately, that trickles down to the staff on site working with the families to a large extent. And so we're going to look and see what creative ways we can use technology. That won't be me doing that, someone else will, but looking at how we can do things maybe a little more efficiently, and also I think being a dialogue with our funders and others about what is it you really want to know. Are there some things that maybe we don't have to have people collect? Are there priorities at a given time, that sort of thing. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion as well. And so we appreciate everyone's input on that. And with that, it concludes our presentation, but we're all available for questions.
I think we may have some. Thank you, Sheila. Commissioner Lake.
Yeah, Sheila, with regard to recidivism, I appreciate your comments that there's more work that needs to be done on this. You need to take a longer look at those who've actually been through the program within or outside of 12 months. As you know, the state and federal definition of recidivism in child welfare is 12 months. That there's been no substantiated recurrence of maltreatment.
Right, yes.
And just by way of information for those who aren't familiar with, that there's a national standard of acceptability of less than 9% is the national goal. State average is at 9.4%. Throughout the child welfare system, and Sacramento County is actually at 10.8%, which needs to be improved. So I appreciate that you will be looking at using that definition of recidivism before we reach any conclusions on how effective these programs are. And what I'm curious, do you have any data that shows of that 20% of the group that has hit that 12-month mark? Do you have a recidivism rate for that group?
I have not seen a breakdown on that, but we will check and see if that's something we can pull out. It may be a pretty small sample to work from. And I think the point is well taken, and we made it ourselves, that we're making this as a snapshot because we really don't have the ability to go back farther. But we wanted to at least let you know, here's what we know right now.
And I appreciate that. I think that's really important too. It's certainly a starting point. I just would encourage all of us to be cautious on the conclusions we reach that of this 3% recidivism number, that it's really based on a different definition of recidivism.
Commissioner Wirtz.
Thank you. Is it not the case, Sheila, that this same analysis has been done with Birth and Beyond outcomes over the years, and that we in the evaluation committee had talked about this year criteria, and is it not the case that your data shows consistently that using a year definition, you demonstrate, I'm not sure if it's 3%, but a substantial decline?
It's always been somewhere around 3 to 5% in the past. We just, because of this additional population, we couldn't necessarily have that same standard and tell you anything about what's happening with a large enough group of those folks.
Right. And that, I mean, I think it's always, I always hate this notion of starting the evaluation this year with a baseline, because we were doing services the previous year and the previous year and the previous year. So it's useful to try to give a snapshot about a year behavior, but it does lead to design issues in the evaluation, which were handled by the more substantial longitudinal evaluation in the past. One, to clarify that. Two, the AAPI has psychometric properties that are well established, and the literature is fairly clear that there are clear correlations between this measure and behavioral outcomes. The literature is never able to demonstrate the causal model directly, but there's strong evidence, and that's why it's on an evidence-based website that California Department of Social Services maintains, is that there are, in order to be on that site, you have to have at least 2 or more studies that have demonstrated outcomes beyond simply behavior, self-report attitudes and behavior. The other thing I will say is that even as strange as it might seem, people are pretty good at responding to self-report measures. Obviously, I'm not naive to think that people can not tell the truth, but I think it's almost naive to think, amazingly, how in fact people do tell quite a lot that you would be surprised to hear them say. An example of that is a North Carolina study on abusive head trauma, where over 2% of parents report shaking their under 1-year-old. And if you talk about 2%, that's a huge number, because the abusive head trauma rate is 1 per 100,000 or something. I mean, it's a very low number. And with 2% self-reporting shaking their babies, I was, and that's a published, published work on that. So I just want to say that although self-report has limitations, it is well established as a scientific approach to looking at data, and is in many cases, when looked at in terms of literature, correlated and demonstrated in the logic model that there are connections to the actual behavioral change. So I just wanted to say that I too was concerned about the lack of consistency in this 1-year follow-up of not being a full year. And then I come back to an issue about sort of supplantation and future sustainability. When 54% of the cases coming into the parenting workshops are mandated by CPS, is CPS paying for any of that, or is First Five?
First Five pays for all mandated classes for parenting.
And you see, I think that the County of Sacramento should be paying for the services that they are involving here. So I mean, I just think that one of the things about sustainability here is that we need to start sharing or continue to share and share more widely this issue of what's supplanting and what is the services that we can maintain. So I just wanted to clarify that issue, that if CPS thinks that someone should have these services, then CPS
I think you need to be, and I say this respectfully, you need to be careful with the term supplanting. I mean, it's a legal term. So just realize, in general, when you say something like, I think the county of Sacramento ought to be paying for this service, maybe there's no disagreement, but it's going to come, it's a finite universe, it's going to come from some other service delivery aspect of CPS. So just understand that, and quite frankly, I don't know about the rest of you, but I kind of look at our First Five Commission as receiving the charge per county. That's why we have 58 First Fives to do exactly what we're doing in the context of county service delivery. So they're not mutually exclusive, is my point.
And I understand that, and I understand that I probably misused the word supplanting in this particular case, but I do think there is the question of how services have over time. First Five has become the source of the last resort, and we're now no longer able to do that. So it's going to become more incumbent upon us to see how we better partner in sharing those expenses, and I think that's what I'm looking at for the Sustainability Committee to look at as well.
Commissioner Moak.
Thanks. I also think it's probably, it's hard to look at things individually, because this universe especially has become so braided over the last 15 years. And so, where CPS gives in some areas to this particular program, it might all even out at the end of the day, right? So some of that, it's just hard to completely break apart. But anyway, I have three things. I guess first, kudos for putting this together and always coming forward with this level of thoughtfulness. And I know it's a ton of work, and the fact that you're able, and kudos also to the county for continuing to kind of open the door or open the file cabinet, I guess, to allowing this to happen, because it's largely unheard of for the most part for an outside entity to be able to walk into a county building and have this relationship where you can access this kind of information. So kudos to you for being able to continue that relationship for all these years, and knowing that you're mostly that this is on your dime. For the most part, this is quite an expense and an endeavor to do. I feel like we reap the benefit of it in many cases, because we have all this data. You're presenting something to us to even poke holes in, and we don't see that from every provider. So I do think that needs to be noted, that you are. In many cases, I know you receive a significant amount of funding, and that is not lost on anyone up here. But the work is really strong, and it's proving to be effective. And you're also going, I feel like, above and beyond to continue with this kind of research project for us, for our benefit, and for the benefit of this community. So thank you for doing that. I'll say, and I feel like you touched on it with some of the use of technology, and I've said this before, so this is a broken record moment, but just the fact that we're looking at 15, 16 program information continues to be unacceptable to me. And not that I know there's nothing at this very moment that we can do about that, but this is 2 years old. Like, we're looking back 2 years. And I get it. I get why. I get the challenges. I get the design issues that come with it, but the example that I give every single time I reiterate the same topic is when you walk out of Lowe's, right? You buy something at Lowe's. You are leaving the door and you're going to get a message on your phone, thank you for your purchase. Here's 4 other things you should buy the next time you're here. So they have figured out within seconds how to capture data from me and send it back to me, aggregate it and send it back my way in an effective, efficient way. I get it, there are massive problems with that and costs and all those other things, but I just feel like whatever you can do, whether that's you getting some counsel to whittle down some of the things you don't need to spend so much time on, I just feel like being able to see a little bit more in real time this data, it only can help, I think, making decisions for how we move forward. And then last, it's super interesting to me, and I've been, I think, curious without really even knowing it about the the school age stuff. I mean, I just think that where we are and with the state of our both administration and just where we are as a community as a whole, the thought of these school age kids not having opportunities that 0 to 5 kids have, and that's not to say, I mean, we know our sandbox is, you know, in statute called out pretty clearly. We are 0 to 5, but it's interesting to see some of this work that you guys are doing. It seems like what you know, I give you praise for being willing to not close the door to a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old with your different programming offerings, and I know that also comes on your dime, but I appreciate it being included, and I look forward to more information about what that looks like to the universe, so thanks.
And if I may, just a couple of comments. One is, you're right that by the time you get this report, it's older, but one of the things that First 5 that your staff gets to see, because they're part of our management team, is that basically we are looking at the data as close to real time as possible under lots more indicators and types of data than what you see in here, so that we can identify issues, trends, gaps, celebrate, wow, look, this thing is going great, or whatever it might be. And it's completely transparent. That data is available at our meetings each time we meet, and we meet monthly. It goes to all the program managers. It goes, the funders are sitting there with us, and they get it and see every piece of it. So there is a real attempt to do that. That doesn't translate into a final written report right away, but there is real data, real time that we have access to and that we use. And it's not like, oh, Richard doesn't want to show his data on X and Roy, no, it's all right there. And it's all right there in terms of what CAPSI's doing, in terms of how many trainings and how many people and how timely. It's all there and quite transparent. So it is truly a collaborative in that sense. And also, just to respond to you, Commissioner Wirtz, you are absolutely correct. This is a bit of an anomaly because we have the combined populations, but we have many years of doing the data in the more traditional way in terms of the recidivism, and so it's not as though this is the first rodeo and the first time we've looked at it. And in fact, there have been consistent data with very little variation percentage-wise over the last decade plus. So we can certainly make more of that available or synthesize it if anybody's interested. Yeah.
Thank you, Sheila.
A couple quick points that Commissioner Moak brought up that I wanted to reiterate. One is that the data that you're seeing here today is, like Sheila said, we actually use a lot of this for our in the moment to make sure the program's working smoothly. And without that, it doesn't work, because we end up with a lot of bumps that you wouldn't see these results later on because of that. So that's one really important piece. I agree with you, technology-wise, it feels like we should be able to take that jump, but then what Lowe's is doing for you is they're projecting what you are going to get. We're trying to show you what has happened as well. So doing that backwards kind of piece is really important as also. So there's probably both of those we can do. And Commissioner Turner and Commissioner Moak, you just brought this up, so I'm going to bring it back. Commissioner Turner, you asked a question about the numbers. And if you go back to that slide number 4, you can do that for me, Sheila, because I'm not going to do it.
Great.
It's really important to note, because I think I'm not sure that we all understood your question right away. What we're looking at with the 241s that are in the pie chart, those are both families that are 0 to 5. Those are families with children that have 0 to 5 inside of them. The 18% is exclusively 6+. So when you look at the age range of the children, a lot of the children that are in that 36th percentile, the 6 to 12, they also have siblings that are 0 to 5. So that's how it is we're working with those families. Now, more to your point, Scott, is that we would in the past not been able to continue doing social engagement and other important pieces with those 6+ kids. And that's what we're adding into this. Does that make sense?
It helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll just end with appreciate very much the recidivism data, the slides on recidivism. And during my briefing with Ms. Galelo, I mentioned that, and I thought the way it's presented in terms of pre and post is very helpful. And I thought so strongly about it that I brought it up to a member of the local media, because oftentimes, quite frankly, the reports and the stories that the readers of our one daily newspaper here get is the bad news. It's the grand jury reports, or it's the post-grand jury activity, and generally being unsatisfied with outcomes associated with being very reactive to something that is not necessarily affirmative for this community. So to me, this is a data set that I think is equally newsworthy because of in some cases, the drastic difference in the outcomes pre and post. So I commend everyone involved for getting this data dissected and presented the way it has been, and I think it's going to be very helpful in the purposeful feedback loop we throw it in to do, as Richard mentioned, whether it be in the moment or long term, to help refine our ability to, at least as First Five is concerned, to maximize the applicability of resources and programming for child welfare. So, appreciate it.
Very much. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, please.
Item 7, Advisory Committee update.
Here he comes.
Here I come. Good afternoon to everybody. I promise this will be a little bit lighter. Okay. But this is from our April 14, 2017 meeting, of course. From our executive director report, we saw the video that you saw today. We were very encouraged by it because not only was it very culturally diverse and very well attended, over 100 participants, but lots of fathers. And what this means to us is that it's not only reaching young mothers and the children, but now fathers are directly starting to get involved with this too. So it's good forward movement, and we were very encouraged by it. It was announced that we would be going over the current, or you would at the commission be going over the current strategic plan. We did review it, lightly review it, and we were very, very informed by it in the first place, but that we were very encouraged by it and look forward to seeing it here. Julie was talking about how there's sort of a switch in focus on more on implementation and systems of sustainability plans, and this is very important. We know there's a fiscal cliff, and that sustainability is very important to First Five in general, and obviously the services we saw today. We talked a little bit about engaging, or how staff is engaging in putting kids first and working with children now, and with a priority being in school districts, engaging school districts with partnerships. And we also had a good discussion on 2 letters of support. SB 63, which is 12 weeks of job protection, paternity leave for both moms and dads. And I know that she had sent out some social media, some email for us to all support, which I did as well, and our agency did. And SB 379, which is improved data collection by the kindergarten oral health assessment for better services. We're all realizing right now how important oral health is. Trust me, I tell my grandchildren every day, brush your teeth, okay? Very important. So we talked a little bit about First Five sharing immigration resources. I know within Head Start we're doing this too, and that this is a function not just of Sacramento County, but throughout the state. We discussed impact sheets that represent the First Five investments in each supervisorial district. Of course, we had questions pertaining to our district because the funding was a little bit different, but it was explained to us it's really pertaining to need of each specific district. We want to know, why is it $3 million here and $1.5 million there? And it was explained very well, so thank you. We were encouraged by the 10 new community building mini grants, and what we were encouraged by is fatherhood programs, early literacy, and multicultural grants. And we thought that was encouraging because a lot of times it's always pertaining to school readiness and parenting, so it's sort of outreaching a little bit. And we look forward to seeing the outcome of those grants. We had a presentation by Julie Myers on fears, misconceptions, and other barriers to children's use of dental services. Terry knows that very well. So, and we talked about the barriers. Of course, transportation being a big one. Services are throughout the community, and if I'm in an unincorporated area, how do I get 8 miles this way without a car? And we brainstormed maybe some possible ways to do that. Fear of, a dentist won't take children that are too young. And we found that that's a misconception. We also, too, we talked a little about when to take your child to the dentist. First tooth, not 3 years old. And I'll be honest with you, my children did not go to the dentist, I hate to admit this, until they were almost 3 years old because I was under that misconception. Also, under barriers, too, fear of parents' experiences. I had a real bad experience. I'm not taking my kid. We've got to reach these parents, not just the children, and realize things have changed maybe 15 years ago, and the experience is a better experience. And then also, one of the biggest is finding a dentist that will take the funding. Not all are going to take it. It's coming around, but not all are taking it at this time. So being to weed through that and find that dentist that's actually going to take that and provide the service needed. We also had another presentation on trauma and resiliency opportunities for action. Miss Carolyn Curtis, one of our members, which is very big on trauma. That didn't come out right. And she gave a presentation on, and basically an outline on how to become trauma informed. And this is for agencies. Very interesting. It was step by step how an agency become much more trauma informed. So we would like to hear more about that. It was also asked that during our meetings, we do what's called a mindfulness moment. We're to be mindful of what we have, what blessings we have in our own lives. And she had also asked me to request to the commission to include a trauma resiliency presentation and training for commissioners at the upcoming meeting. Now, this wasn't just her, of course, all members thought this would be very important. That way you can be as better informed on this issue. So maybe something to think about down the road. Last but not least, the committee also acknowledged the importance of including trauma-informed care language in the 2018 strategic plan and implementation plan. We would like to see that verbiage in that plan. We think, along with dentists and everything else, this is very informative. It's very hard to learn if I have severe trauma. Now, don't get me wrong, we probably all in some way have some form of trauma in our lives, but when you have 10 indicators and a child has 7, it's very hard just to get through that day. And I think studies indicate that if there's too much trauma, that child is not going to learn and is also going to be very impulsive. So anyway, that was our meeting on April 14th. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Robert?
No?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item 8, Financial Planning Committee update.
Thank you. I'll take this. We had a meeting on April 6th. Our committee reviewed the latest financial statements, and we didn't see anything out of the ordinary. They all looked very good. We also looked, as you saw, at the fiscal year 2017-18 recommended budget and 10-year financial plan. This was already presented to our commission. We accepted it at that particular committee meeting, and we again voted on it today. So that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Item 9, Evaluation Committee update.
Thank you. We had our special meeting on April 21st because we wanted to move through the results-based accountability assessment that we were doing. And so this was a special extra meeting on this. We had been looking at these new results-based accountability forms that are trying to help both staff and providers look at indicators that are most valuable for outcomes that we're looking at. And so, simply put, it asks sort of 3 types of questions. How much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off because of it? And I think part of that is to get to some of the kind of items that we've been talking about today about how to translate complex things into usable formats. And I think it's very productive. And I just want to say, for one, that Stephanie Biegler is one of our providers that comes regularly to these meetings and always brings a a commitment to work with us on finding better ways to do evaluation and better ways to present that. And I know she's left, but I was just have been impressed with her willingness to put on up front for people what her program's doing, what they're measuring, and how they could improve those. And I think we have a basic commitment from the evaluators and from our other programs for that same thing. So I think that's been extremely valuable. David and Christina have been central players in asking the right kinds of questions and helping staff look at these. And we really, I think, made continue to make the decision that these are important to get these indicators right and valuable and useful, instead of just having what are oftentimes just regular indicators that might be how many widgets have we counted, but rather looking at real performance measures that help us improve practice, improve our services. And so we are not quite done with those yet, but we've made good progress in those, and I think they're improving all the time. And I think their major purpose is, in fact, to help staff work with providers to hone in on what are the most important things to measure from their point of view of their services, as well as from our joint point of view. And we do hope to sort of streamline that process.
Yes.
So,
great. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 10, Sustainability Committee update.
Okay. Christina Elliott, Vice Chair of this committee, will take this. I have two categories to report to the Commission on. First, the policy and advocacy work that the Sustainability Committee is doing. Recent letters of support include SB 426, Community-Based Home Visitation Pilot Program. It's authored by Senator Pan and co-sponsored by CAPC. This bill uses the Sacramento Birth and Beyond as a model for a pilot expansion program. Also, Margot Grant Gold, Policy Director at the First Five Association, gave an overview on the role of the association regarding policy work and supporting the commissions throughout the state. She provided an update on the bills the association is supporting and may revise and budget signing timeline. I think our relationship with First Five Association is getting really strong, so as a member of that committee, it was great to have Margot there, and I look forward to seeing lots of her. Second area to report on, Systems Sustainability Plan. And to recap, the purpose of this plan is about sustaining the results we've promoted for children. In order to sustain these outcomes, we are taking a three-pronged approach, and these three objectives are: one, community awareness, support, and will to promote the desired result in terms of the norms and actions of families, residents, and community leaders. And think of this objective as the grassroots of an environmental part of systemic change. Number two, policy changes that promote the desired result. So encouraging the little p, policy changes that create systemic procedures, such as hospitals following practices that promote breastfeeding, or all First Five contractors providing key messages or resources to incoming clients. And then two, advocating for policy changes with the big P. So the work that we're doing with First Five Association and the support letters. Across both county, state, so local and statewide. And then the third part of this second area I'm reporting on is financial resources that fund the desired result, which may include new funding, leveraging funding, or more efficient use of existing funding. So reduce duplication, which we've talked about today, across the portfolio of First Five supported programs. Staff completed the task of prioritizing strategies targeting the identified policy result areas in the strategic plan, and some of those that are overarching. The key criteria for prioritizing strategies included direct impact of the strategy on the desired result, the urgency, and the amount of staff time and other resources required. Committee members reviewed and approved the list of objectives and strategies and provided additional input on the context for the written plan. Staff will be working with ASR consultants to finalize finalize the outline and task force system sustainability plan documents for review by the committee at our upcoming meeting. They also prepared this summary for me. Thank you very much. And I want to also thank the consultants that we've been working very closely with to follow with Steve. Both the consultants in the evaluation committee and in the sustainability committee have been fantastic partners, so we're really grateful for that. And of course, staff, you guys are amazing. Thank you for all of your hard work on this. And that concludes my report.
Very good, thank you. Item 11 is commission member comments. So looking to my left, any comments here? Any comments over here? I will just make mention of a couple of events that I had a chance to attend this past Saturday. I think Sheila mentioned the host of health and wellness fairs that tend to occur about this start to become pretty regular this time of year. And so on Saturday alone, I attended in the morning the 11th annual Family Fun Day, which is co-sponsored by the Sacramento Children's Home and the Valley High Family Resource Center. And so I had a chance to say hi to a lot of our partners that were there, and it looked like a terrific turnout. I arrived right about the time the gates first opened, and there was kind of a flood of people, so it was good to see a lot of folks in the south part of our community taking advantage of that. And then it was off to Maple for their second annual Dia del Niño, which was, again, very gratifying to see some of the same partners that were pulling double duty that day with staff that were both over at Hyde Park, and then others that were at Maple, and again doing great work. And there's a lot of bilingual services offered at Maple. Both Supervisor Kennedy and I happened to be at Maple Elementary. I need to stop saying that. Maple Neighborhood Center the day prior for more or less the grand opening and acknowledgement of all the people and organizations that made the repurposing of formerly Maple Elementary into a very, very welcome neighborhood center that's already doing great things. So it is that time of year, and I suspect it's probably going to become even more busy as the temperature begins to climb, and we look forward to some dry weather here in the coming months. So if there's nothing further before this commission, we just have item 12, which is communications filed. And with that, we are adjourned.